As I find myself wondering, weak and weary, I come across a Joker origin story. Yeah, that's right. Batman 142 through 44. I can math. And let's just say I am not very happy. Yes, okay. I'm gonna go through each of these issues one at a time. And this covers the whole new Joker Year 1 story that everybody was hyped about, including me. That's the only reason I bought this series is because DC went all clickbaity and talked me into buying it. So I'm gonna start with 142. I always get the covers I like. 142 attempts to delve into the Joker's origin story. And let me ask you this. Have you heard anyone ever go, oh, I wonder where the Joker came from? Because no one cares. We already have an origin story. He has a bad day, runs with the Red Hood gang, falls into a vat of acid, and then there's the Joker. This is literally telling the same story, just adding these little bits here and there about like their thoughts and his weird thoughts of like, I'm afraid and I'm confused. And it strangely tries to paint him in this human light. And I say strangely because even the first lines are Batman saying, you're the devil. Because even to this day, Bruce, the ultimate detective, cannot figure out what the hell the Joker is. Because that's his thing, right? He runs off of wondering if he's actually not human. That doesn't work here because we see him as the ultimate monster already. We know things that he's done in the past and there's just too much bad blood here. There's too much history. You can't try and make us feel sorry for him. It's way too late for that. Especially when you try to put into context that he's a whole different person now than who he used to be. He might have been afraid and a loser before, but now he's a supervillain, so it doesn't matter what he was before. It only matters what he is now. They even go so far as to show him painting over himself with like a human skin tone, trying to blend in because he knows he looks unnatural. Which contradicts how we usually see him. Sometimes we see him actually like painting his face white to look more like a clown. So it's kind of cool to have that parallel, but we could have that anytime. Just like the little nod about Jim Gordon going to be commissioner in the future, even though he's not right now currently in this timeline. All of that's like in the background, along with this side scheme of the dirty cops that are taking over the police station. I mean, part of the Joker's allure is his unpredictability and the lack of a definitive backstory. I remember finding it so funny how every time he would tell an origin story, it always changed. Like, he's legit trolling us, right? And that's more something that he would do. That's his way. For fans that do cherish the mystique surrounding the Joker, there's a bunch of other stories that handle it so much better. It's The Killing Joke, for instance, which, while it does present an origin story, even the Joker wonders if that's true. Or even The Dark Knight Returns or Batman Arkham Asylum. All those things explore the Joker's psyche and, these questions more than this issue does. The art is fine, I enjoy it. Though it does seem like it tries a little bit too hard to be The Killing Joke sometimes. It has these classic 6-panel shots, which they don't do anymore, but they did do that in The Killing Joke. And they even do one of the same exact panels, just redrawn, the famous cover, actually. And I don't enjoy the sudden switch of art about halfway through, where it shows this realistic dark style, which I think is the one everyone thought was AI, if I'm not mistaken. There was a huge controversy about that, and I think DC even apologized for it, and this will not age well. Another thing is they keep bringing up the Red Hood gang, and saying it over and over again doesn't do much, because Jason actually succeeded in taking that name away from the Joker. We associate the name Red Hood with Jason now, so every time I hear it, in this issue, I have to literally remind myself that they're talking about the gang and not Jason, because he did such a good job of redefining and taking his life back that he took it away from the Joker. So that it literally doesn't have this meaning impact anymore as it did when it first came out. And again, for some reason, strangely, they included the concept of the 3 Jokers thing, which has been a controversial topic. And this issue attempts to weave it in there, here and there. But instead of adding depth to it, it just kind of complicates things. And it feels forced and unnecessary. Like they're trying to cover their own tracks. And then they just kind of wave it off. Like, oh, you remember that? That was weird, huh? He doesn't need all these gimmicks. He just exists because he does. And the great thing about the Joker, which never thought I'd say that, but he is Batman's ultimate opposite. Not only does he represent chaos where Batman strives for order, but his whole life, Bruce tried so hard to convince himself that bad things must happen for some reason, that his parents were murdered because of a conspiracy. It was the biggest lesson I loved reading from Court of Owls. That's why I love that one so much. But the Joker is proof that not everything happens for a reason, and that sometimes things are bad just because they are. And the Joker is proof of this. He has no rhyme or reason to do anything. It's just he does these things because he's bad. And I don't like trying to give him an origin story where he doesn't need one. Another thing I really hated in this was the ending. It introduces this character who says he's been following him. And it just so happens to be the same guy who trained Batman. Come on now. And he's going to teach the Joker how not to feel fear. But why? The Joker doesn't need this. It makes the Joker look really incompetent. Like he's whiny, he's scared, he's crying, he runs from Batman multiple times. This is not the Joker we know. And this is after his little accident. So fans who prefer that kind of, enigmatic chaos, ambiguous chaos, might be a bit disappointed with this issue. Because it does not capture the spirit of the Clown Prince of Crime, I'll tell you that. It's more like the Clown Prince of Wine. And I did enjoy seeing Jim Gordon in here. But I don't see the point of any of it right now. And the Joker Red Hood stuff isn't even new. This is all stuff we've heard before. It's only weakened down a little. I think I'd have rather maybe listened to Batman just monologue to himself, doing an autopsy on the Joker, and trying to, he's being baffled and he's trying to figure out what the hell he is, and he's not coming up with any answers. Explore his psyche, maybe some flashbacks, I don't know. But Batman was barely in it at all. And a lot of people don't like his inner thoughts about him like idolizing the Joker, but I think those were the most intriguing parts of all. I like those. So as of right now, maybe I'd give this single issue a 2 out of 5. I really did enjoy it, but I'm being generous because they did bait me with the Joker origin story. I really don't know what I expected because it's just the same story that we've already heard before. 143. Okay, and getting better. This one kind of redeems the disappointing first issue. And I was a bit concerned that it was going to initially focus on that whole 3 Jokers thing again. It did, but then it just kind of waved it off again, like it was too afraid to address that. And it went to a more different narrative. It tries to start with explaining that away as 3 different personalities, sort of like he was trained to make 3 different personalities as a tactic. It's still convoluted and I think it's pretty stupid, but I do appreciate that they tried to ground it. They're like, we already did this, now we have to make it make sense. So I appreciate an attempt was made. The real twist comes at the end when the Joker has been revealed to have been faking his fear all along. This is the kind of cunning and manipulation that I like to see with the Joker, that comes with the Joker. It just shows us his ability to play the long game when it comes to Batman. He has no problem waiting years, if that's what it takes, just to get a good joke on Batman. At the same time, at the same time, he's got to get a life, man. Anyway, by pretending to be afraid this whole time, he's gaining valuable information, right? He's possibly learning how the Batman was trained by taking on the training that he took on himself. Sort of like when you trying to catch a criminal, you have to think like a criminal. But it's kind of ironic considering that he's the criminal. You know what I mean? And I do like that this issue benefits from having a stronger Batman presence than the last one did. It's I enjoyed watching him struggle with trying to decipher the Joker's motives and his strategies. You can tell he has these moments of frustration because it's always a dead end when it comes to the Joker. Some things just cannot be explained with science. Especially when Bruce is forced to play along with some of these games that he's doing. And you can tell, he feels humiliated to even give him an ounce of satisfaction of being forced to do what the Joker wants him to do. And then the Joker takes it even further by targeting not just his family, which we get a tragic glimpse of, but also his loved ones, like Selina. It reiterates that there are some things worse than death, and the Joker knows this. If you're dead, then I cannot screw with you. However, there's some stuff that still feels a bit, open, should I say? The cop storyline, for instance, it seems a bit disconnected from the central thing surrounding the Red Hood gang. Even though it's directly involved at the same time, it's not immediately clear to me what the purpose is. Though they do a wonderful job of making me hate their dirty cop character. But at this point, I'm not surprised with dirty cops anymore, especially in Gotham. Dick had his whole arc surrounding it in Nightwing, which was my favorite and I feel like can't be beaten. I do like the little snide remark that Gordon makes where he's like, oh, I knew I should have taken that job in Metropolis. There's a scene where the Batman points a gun at the Joker, and it feels a bit out of character because immediately I know the response was supposed to be Bruce knowing that he saw the flag all along. But all I could think of immediately when I saw that was my response was like, wait, Batman's holding a gun and pointing it at someone? I know they're trying to make it seem like, oh, he hates the Joker so much, he wants to take his chance and it would be dramatic. But still, all I could think about was this is not something Batman would do. Even if he knows it's a joke gun. He wouldn't even play like he's pointing a gun at someone. Also, there's an explanation in here about how acid can bleach someone's skin so white that it takes away their pigment or something like that. And I feel like that stretches the line just a little bit, even though I'm not an acid expert. I'm willing to bend the rules a little bit, especially when it comes to Batman, so it's okay, whatever. Despite these random things, the twist of the Joker in the end about him hiding his fear just to get information, and seeing his actual ruthless character come back makes it very enjoyable for me. I think the character is enough to overshadow some of the unresolved subplots going on here, but I just don't think there's enough to drag this through 3 whole issues, because Joker's past can be summed up as he fell into a vat of acid and became the Joker, and that's kind of all there is. I feel like they don't want to take any risks with adding or changing too much to a well-known iconic character's history, so they threw in a last-minute side story with the zombies and the Red Hood stuff because they just need to fill up the game time. They're like, oh, we know everything there is to know about the Joker, so let's talk about the Red Hood gang. I just don't think there's much you can do with the Joker that has not been done before. Any kind of storyline that you could think of, he's probably had it in there somewhere. Especially even when it comes to the past and trying to decipher things. What can really happen in the next issue? So I'd say maybe a 3 out of 5. And that's being really generous because I liked it more than the first one. It's just a lot of filler, but a cool twist ending that's more faithful to the Joker character. After that, we're on to the conclusion of the whole year 1 thingy with Batman 144. And it really does significantly improve the series, or the arc, should I say. There's a stunning narrative. And I like that it delves very deeply into the dynamic between Batman and the Joker. The issue opens with Batman expressing guilt about running away from his family in order not to hurt them. And his words are, I feel terrible sending them out into a dark, violent world. And this serves as a great parallel as his base feelings that he feels towards them. And that's kind of what he was thinking when he took them in as well. I think it does a great job of highlighting his protectiveness, how much responsibility he feels when it comes to his allies. Also, I forgot to say this in the previous one, but I am not a fan of Selina's white hair that they've done here. It looks too similar to Black Cat. Even though I know probably that, just logically it was better to see it against a dark background because she's wearing all black already. So I'll let that pass. But you can't just go changing a character's look anytime you feel like it. The art in this one is particularly striking. This image where he's like, death is following me, followed by a shot of the Joker following Batman. It's a powerful showing of like what the Joker represents. And we do get a little joke in here, I have to go see why my butler isn't butling. And Bruce's shadow being Batman on the wall as he walks by is also a cool visual. But I was a little bit thrown off seeing Bruce talk so casually to Jim Gordon on the phone, because this whole time, like up to today, I still kind of thought they kind of pretended that Gordon knew he was Batman, but then they kind of pretended like he didn't know, so nobody was responsible when another one got in trouble or something. But this time they talk like they're just like, oh hey Batman, what's up? Oh hey Gordon, how you doing? I don't know. And yeah, just like on the cover, Gordon got more of the spotlight in this one. And Batman helped from the shadows, as she usually does. Though I failed to see how this guy, who supposedly ran a whole gang somehow this whole time, thought it was a good idea, and how he thinks he can get away with pulling an assault on a whole police station. Just for something like a little bit of free evidence or some drugs or some diamonds. And like the Joker just happened to be there at the same time. Gordon just happened to be there. Come on now. And did we really need this random fan service shot of him with all these guns from the armory? This plot had nothing to do with him. He was just there. The real badass scene though is when Gordon actually takes on the corrupt commissioner, like one-on-one, hand-to-hand. So, that was really cool to watch. I enjoyed that kind of action sequence. And then, in a cool twist, we turned out that the commissioner was actually Experiment Zero for the one that's Joker let loose on Gotham in the future arc with the zombies and stuff. As his own type of personal revenge. So it ties those two timelines together very nicely. I'll give it that. Joker did win pretty big time in this. Not only did he manage to completely just defeat the town with his toxin, but he royally screwed with Bruce's head. Something that is a bit weird though, he has a bit too much confidence for this toxin, considering that it seems like it might be the first time he's used it, even though, it's one of his staples, is that he will constantly, even in the game, he uses the Joker toxin and he's got followers and stuff. But it seems like this is kind of hinting that it's the first time he's done it. Anyway, he saved Jason for last, of course, because they have such a strong connection. And this was probably my favorite interaction in the whole issue. And they exchanged these lines of, you lived because I let you, because I love you. And Batman said, I let you live even though I hate you. That seems kind of a bit direct for me, but I get what they were going for. And then we're treated to this awesome panel of Batman on a horse, leading bats. Because somehow the Joker managed to make them the cure, being that the toxin was sound-based to begin with. Now that's amazing. I'll give A for creativity right there. Okay, pause. At the same time though, how can this be? I can't help but think, how in the world can the Joker pull all of this off? Batman is the smartest person I know. Bruce Wayne is the world's greatest detective. He knows everything there is about chemistry, science, anything you can think of. And it took him, I don't know how long, but a hell of a long time to figure out the toxin and how to counter it. And the Joker is nobody. They went out of their way to show us that he was a nobody. He was just a regular man. He had a crappy wife. He was a failed comedian. He wasn't particularly smart. He wasn't a chemist or any of that. He just fell into acid. So how does falling into acid make a normal guy suddenly be smarter than the world's greatest detective, to be able to make all these toxins, to always be so far steps ahead of the greatest detective? How is the Joker capable of this when he is just a normal guy? Falling into acid does not make you suddenly smarter than the world's greatest detective, right? How is he able to create something that could only be cured with the sound of bats? But Bruce was hit with this ultimate realization that he could have won at any time, and that he's really just a pawn in the Joker's game. No matter what he does, the Joker is always one step ahead of him. So I think fans of the whole Batman-Joker interaction will find it particularly rewarding, as it does capture their like eternal conflict and the psychological conflict that kind of defines their whole relationship. Which is why we really love these two characters. They're polar opposites. Though Jim Gordon is really the star. And it tries to be faithful to the Killing Joke because it ends with this issue style of panels that's strikingly similar with how it ends in the blackness. Yeah, I know what they were doing. So I guess for this particular issue, I would say 4 out of 5 because I enjoyed this one the most. I just don't think it brought anything particularly new to the table. And it was more of like another Joker origin story rather than a new Joker origin story because it's literally the same thing happens as before. That's like a 9 out of 15 in total for these. 2 out of 5 for the first, 3 out of 5 for the second, and then 4 out of 5 for the third. So you see, that tends to be my pattern anyway. I'm not really invested when I start something, but then I really get into it, and then I like how they always tie it together. So I mean, that's still pretty good, you know. That's like a 60%. That's a low D. That's still passing, right? It sounds better to say 6 out of 10, I guess. I wish he had a more dramatic entrance in this. And whenever I think of a Joker origin story, I kind of go back in memory, back to the 1980s, the VHS Batman, where Jack Nicholson is throwing money down the street on his parade. I love it. I thought I needed to have this when I did not need to have this. I haven't been buying Batman in so long, but like when this came out, I was like, I know I had to read it to see what they were trying to do. And I fell for the marketing trap. So that's how they get you, tricky marketing. They used the Joker's name and, you know, they're good at that. So I only have myself to blame. Thank you for watching. I hope you share some of my opinions, you know, when it comes to the Joker year 1. Should we say like the third Joker year 1? Anyway, till next time.